everyone, and welcome to this Math 081 video. In previous videos, we have learned how to write the equations of horizontal and vertical lines, how to write the equation of a line given its graph. In this video, we will be accomplishing these three skills, which are how to write the equation of a line given its slope and y-intercept, how to write the equation of a line given the slope and 1 point, and how to write the equation just given 2 points on the line. So let's get started. This is an excerpt just from the textbook. The equation, the slope formula that we will be using, is given to us right here. So notice that if the slope is not given, we're going to have to use this formula. And then if the y-intercept is not given, we're going to have to substitute the slope value into that equation, and then also one of the ordered pairs. And then we will solve for b, and then finally we'll put m, the slope, and b, the y-intercept, into the equation. So let's do a concrete example so we can sort of get the feel for this. So it says write the equation of the line with slope 2/5 and y-intercept -7. So as you can see here in this column, it says to find the slope, but luckily for us, we don't have to find the slope. In other words, we don't have to calculate it because it's already been given to us. So in this column, we can just write that the slope, m, is 2/5. Then we need to find the y-intercept, which is, remember, the point where the line crosses the y-axis, and it's represented by the letter b. And again, we don't actually have to do any math because they just told us right here that the y-intercept is -7. Isn't that nice? So all we have to do in this problem is just sort of build or assemble the pieces, kind of like a Lego kit here. So we're going to put 2/5 in place of x, and we're going to put -7 in place of b. And then if we want to, we can rewrite this as 2/5 x minus 7. So either of these would be a correct final answer for this problem. Now, unfortunately, most of our problems like this they're not going to just give us the slope and the y-intercept. There's going to be a little bit more work. So let's try another example where we actually have to do a little bit more math to get to our equation. So in this example, we're asked to write the equation of a line with a slope of -4. And then notice we're not given the y-intercept, we're just given the fact that this line passes through the point 3, 2. So we need the slope of the line, and the slope is m is equal to -4. Then we need to find b, our y-intercept, but unfortunately, right now, we don't really know b. So let's fill in what we do know. We do know that our slope is -4. So wherever I see m, I can put -4 there in place of m. So what else do I know? What other piece of information are we given? Well, we're also given to this point 3, 2, which is saying that x is 3 and y is 2. So guess what? I'm going to put those values in place of y and in place of x, and then I can go through and I can solve for our y-intercept b. So we have 2 is equal to -12 plus b, and then we need to add 12 to both sides, and when we do that, we find out that b is equal to 14. So I'm going to take the m here and the b here, and I'm going to put them all together again, like building a little Lego kit or putting together some IKEA furniture, and we're just going to put those where they belong, and then we'll have our linear equation. So m is -4 and b is 14. So our final answer is y equals -4x plus 14. All right, let's do another example. So in number 3, you can see here that the slope of -3/2 is given to us. So we have m is equal to -3/2. And then we have the fact that the line is passing through the point 1, 2. So again, we start out with the slope-intercept form of this equation, y equals mx plus b. And then we fill in what we know so far. And what we know so far is we know the slope. What we don't know yet, as you can see, is we don't know the y-intercept. So we have to use the fact that it passes through this point 1, 2 to find our y-intercept. So wherever I see y, I'm going to put a 2. Where I see x, I'm going to put a 1. And then I'll go back and fill in the equation around it. So we have 2 is equal to negative 3/2 plus something. So at this point, I need to add 3/2 to both sides. So I have 2 plus 3/2 is equal to b. Now, if you recall from a previous chapter, the way we add a whole number and a fraction is that we have to get a common denominator. So 2 becomes 4/2 because we multiply by 2 over 2. So we're going to have 4/2 plus 3/2, which gives us 7/2 for b. So again, we come over here, we write y equals mx plus b, and then wherever we see m, we fill in our slope, which is negative 3/2, and we put positive 7/2 in place of b. So our final answer is y equals negative 3/2 x plus 7/2. And that's our answer. So we're going to do a few more examples. The next few examples, we're not even going to be given the slope. We're just going to be given 2 ordered pairs. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to find our slope. So if you recall, the equation that we use to find slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so we go through and we label these x and y, and then we sort of arbitrarily pick one point to be the first one and one point to be the second one. And if you recall, it doesn't matter which one is 1 and which one is 2. Usually I just do it in order just to be kind of lazy. So y2 is 9, y1 is 3, x2 is 4, and x1 is 1. 9 minus 3 is 6. 4 minus 1 is, 3. So then we always have to reduce that. 6 over 3 reduces to 2. So far we know that our slope is 2. So what other piece do we need? Well, we also need to find our y-intercept. So we can sort of start building our equation here if we want to. So we have y equals 2x, x plus something. So just like last time, if you recall, we went through and we put an x and a y value into this equation. We're going to do the exact same thing, and actually it doesn't matter if we use the first point or the second point. I usually just pick the one that has maybe smaller numbers just to make my math easier. So I'm going to choose the point 1, 3. Again, if you'd like to choose the other point and work through this, you're welcome to do that. Another thing that I would recommend is, as you watch these videos, sometimes pause the video, see if you can finish a problem or work through it on your own, and then unpause the video and see if you were, in fact, correct. The more interactive you can be with these videos, the more you're really going to get out of them and learn. Oops, sorry. It should be in equals. Okay, so we have 3 is equal to 2 plus something. Subtract 2 from both sides. We find out that our y-intercept is 1. So now we have all the information that we need. We have y equals mx plus b. We know that our slope m is 2. We know that our y-intercept b is 1. And so we're done. So notice that, again, relative to the previous problems, this is going to take a little bit more work. So let's just do this next example. Okay, so again, we're given 2 points here, and we're going to have to use our slope formula. And remember, you're probably going to be asked to commit that formula to memory. So think about the easiest way to do that. For me, I usually just write it a bunch of times, and then it ends up being lodged in my brain. Okay, so we have, I'll call this x1, y1, we'll call this x2, y2. So let's start plugging things in. So let's see, y2 is negative 4, y1 is 3, x2 is negative 2, and x1 is negative 4. Just make sure you really are careful about your signs and watch those because it's so easy to make a mistake. So minus and negative becomes plus a positive. Negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2. So our slope, it looks like, is negative 7/2. So we have y equals negative 7/2 x plus something. So again, we have to pick one or the other of these 2 points. It really doesn't matter which. I think I'm going to pick the first point just because it's there. So I'm going to let x be equal to negative 4. I'm going to let y be equal to positive 3. And then try to find our y-intercept b. So this is going to be 3. This is going to be negative 4. All right, so what can we do here? Well, remember we can sort of reduce this. Well, let's do it this way. So negative 7 times negative 4 is positive 28. So we have 28 over 2. 28 over 2 is 14. So we subtract 4. Oops, I hate when it does that. Whatever. All right. So then we have negative 11 is equal to b. Okay. So finally, we can put these 2 things together. So we have y is equal to mx plus b. So y equals negative 7/2 x minus 11. Okay, and that's the final answer, and we're done.